Hi and welcome to the Make Things Club, a club for people who love to make things. My name is Sarah and I'm your host. It is February 17th, 18th, I think, and I'm coming at you from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. I quickly wanted to give a shout out to a fine group of ladies that I know. My cat's on my desk. I want to give a shout out to Jody and Tracy, who started their own podcast, The Grocery Girls, and they're also located in Edmonton, so I feel really excited about that. Tracy I know from my local yarn shop who works there, and Jody is actually Mrs. Brown Bags, so I'm sure many of you have seen or purchased her bags before, and yeah, they started their own podcast, and it's really exciting to have more podcasters in Edmonton. So give them a check them out. Other than that, I am Sarah, as I said before, and I can be found on Ravelry as Romperlust. There's also the group for the Make Things Club podcast, so if you wanted to join our group, we're starting to get a little bit of discussion going, which is really exciting. And I can also be found on Instagram as Loose Pages, Twitter as Loose Pages, Pinterest as Loose Pages, so I'm kind of all over the place and I've got different names for everything. Stella. Oh my goodness, she's been so bad. But yeah, if you wanted to tag along and follow me on other things, come here you. But yeah, if you wanted to follow along, then you can find me on those places. What's up? She's been restless lately. So I guess I would like to apologize for not podcasting last week. I think, I'm not set on this yet, but I think that just with me having less time, I guess, when I go back to work, I'll talk about this in a second, but I'm thinking of changing to a bi-weekly format. I'm also thinking of not doing that. The thing is that right now, I've been not super motivated to work on anything knit-wise or craft-wise. I'm not quite sure why that is. I'm just not in love with something enough to really just want to do it. And so I kind of feel like my knitting mojo was destroyed when I finished all those projects last month, and then I just kind of have been meandering and wandering from project to project and not really having my heart set on anything, so that makes it difficult to show when you don't have anything done. And also, some of you might know this, my close friends and family know that I've been on a leave from work since November. So I've had a lot of free time to sit and craft and, sit and craft and come up with things to do and go and buy all of the stuff that I need and sit on Ravelry for a bunch of time. Stella, can you not? She's moving my camera. But I've had lots of extra time that I won't have when I start going back to work. So I will be going back to work within the next couple weeks, and it might be a little bit more difficult for me to find the time and the privacy in certain areas to record regularly. I'd like to do weekly as much as possible, but the frequency that I finish projects and the frequency that I have been starting projects lately has been a little bit lower than usual. So there's not too much to talk about for the most part. So with me going back to work, that might change things a little bit, but we'll see. I'm going to play it by ear, and I hope you guys understand that I'm not doing this because I don't like it or because I'm, bored or anything. It's just there's been a lot of stuff going on in my personal life that I feel has been taking priority, keeping me from doing a lot of crafting projects. So just want to be upfront and let you know that I'm not quite sure what my format will be yet. I'm still working on figuring out exactly how frequently I will be able to podcast, but if you want to follow along on my blog, which is www.makethingsclub.com, I usually will be trying to post a little bit more on that, as well as weeks where if I'm not going to be podcasting, just a little update so that you guys aren't kind of going, where are the videos? So it might be a little sporadic. I hope you guys can stick it out for that, and by all means you can get in contact with me on the internet if you want to chat or show me something. I'd love that. That would be awesome. So all of that out of the way, There's a couple things that I wanted to talk to you about. I've got my little notebook here that I keep notes in just regarding stuff I'd like to talk about or things that I want to remind myself to talk about. Stilla! Yes! I will put you in a box. Mama's doing something. Okay? Anyways, there's a couple things that I wanted to bring up that I thought were cool. The first one is, I believe I probably saw this on a podcast somewhere, and I can't remember who. You need to cut your nails. I can't remember who it was or who mentioned it, so just know that this isn't an original idea. But I like the idea of starting a yarn journal. So I know Eric from the Sticks Plus Twine podcast had kind of mentioned stuff about ball bands before. And my ball bands rest in this. So I've got tons of them because as you can see behind me, you know what? Hold on a second. I have to take my cat out of here. Okay, so I think we should be fine. If you hear scratching at the door, she'll probably just be sitting there waiting for me to let her in. And I'm not going to because Stella has been very, very bad lately. Anyways, back to the ball band stuff. So I have all of my ball bands in this Ziploc bag. Because if you can see behind me, I tend to keep my yarn caked and on the wall. Just because I don't have a lot of space, so I might as well do something like that. So what I was thinking of doing was starting a yarn journal so that when I'm done a project, I can put whatever's left of the yarn, just like a little sample, and the ball band, so that if I'm ever unsure of what I should be doing wash-wise, what project I was working on with certain yarn, if I forgot what it was after I've used it all, I will have a reference almost of all my projects, and basically just a journal that lets me go back and check out all of the stuff that I've done and if there's any information that I need. So I'm kind of looking for a cute little book that I could do that with. I have a couple ideas of what kind of book. I think like an art journal would work really well, just because I can kind of section stuff off my own way and not deal with lines. But I do want to start that. So with every finished project that I have, I'd be adding thing to my yarn journal so I could go back and check on it and see what the care instructions are without having to dig through a bag of ball bands, because that's a problem. I don't want to get rid of them because they do have important information on them, and sometimes I don't put all of that other stuff into my stash on Ravelry. So I've been pretty good about putting the yarn that I own into my stash just to keep it in the forefront of my mind. I really like when I'm perusing other people's patterns and they have a certain yarn suggested, that it'll come up as like, you have 3 yarn ideas in your stash for this. So I really like that, so I'll keep doing that, but I do want to start putting my ball bands in places that aren't Ziploc bags that take up space, in drawers that I could put other things in instead. So I did want to bring that up. I thought that was an awesome idea, and I'll probably be starting that as soon as I get a book. Another thing I wanted to mention is that I actually signed up for the You and Me swap, which is held on Instagram. So if you wanted to follow them along, it's EWE, not EU. I don't remember the rest of it though, but I'll put it in the show notes. But You and Me swap, I think they do it every season. It kind of seems like they do it every couple months, but I think that they probably have a 3 to 4 month wait in between when they do it. So I heard about it last year from a couple friends who had done it. I thought it was a cool idea, so I signed up this year, and my partner is actually from Portugal, so I'm really excited to send her some lovely things. We're pretty similar in terms of the things that we like and our color choices and things that we like to knit, so I'm really excited about that. I've also been in contact with her. She's really sweet. So I've been thinking of things to send her that she can't get just, you know, going to a mall or a shop or anything like that. So if you have any suggestions for distinctly Canadian items, I know I always thought that David's Tea was an American company, but I didn't know that it's Canadian. So when I watch Canadian podcasters talk, and especially Eric, he's a tea fiend, I love how he's like, this is David's Tea, and I'm like, you can't really get that anywhere else. So I think that's really cool. I had the same idea about Lush. Maybe Lush was a company that was kind of centered more in Canada, or at least in the States. But apparently they're everywhere. So if you can think of any companies that are distinctly Canadian, I don't want to do the stereotypical thing where I send her like maple syrup candies or anything like that, but just things that she might not be able to find without having to spend a lot of money on shipping or a lot of internet time finding. I think that would be really nice to include in her box. So with that said, I don't want to talk about my Campside shawl yet, but I do want to talk about something that came out of my frustration with my Campside shawl. So I am on Reddit, and I have never really entered or said anything on the our knitting subreddit at all, but I was perusing some of the things that they have, like the Ask a Question day, and someone on Reddit recommended a website called yarnsub.com. And I have no idea how I haven't heard of this before, how I haven't seen it before, but if you are someone who struggles with price points for yarn, if you're someone who has your heart set on something but you can't get it, if there's anything that you love about a certain yarn and you want to substitute it with someone or something else, but you're completely lost as to what you would substitute it with, check out this website. Basically, the way that it works is you would type in the yarn that you're using. The example in the thread was the Pearl Soho Chunky Merino, the really, really big one that they sell for blankets. Someone had mentioned something about wanting a blanket made out of that, but they could not afford the Pearl Soho version of the yarn that was used. So someone recommended this website, and you know, you can type in if, like, for an example of that Pearl Soho yarn, I looked it up afterwards, and they would recommend things like Cascade Magnum, and they would put, this will work out exactly, but always do a gauge swatch. This is similar fiber, this is how this would feel, this is how this would wash. So it compares every other yarn that you could think of with the yarn that you are hoping to substitute for. So if you haven't seen or heard of this, please check it out. It's awesome. I will probably be spending a lot more time on it in the future, just based on the fact that my knowledge of other yarns is still kind of growing as I try new things and order new yarns. But it's a really great website. Check it out and bookmark it, because it's something that you'll want to come back to again and again and again. Yeah, so on to the knitting. Finished objects. I have zero. None. Zero. Absolutely none. That finish in FebCal that I was kind of trying to do for the Junk Yarn podcast, Kemper has a cal going on where you finish all your works in progress in the month of February, and I haven't touched any of them. I have been kind of working on my blanket every once in a while. I think I've got maybe 8 rows more than I did last time I talked to you. I didn't pull it in here because it's heavy and I just didn't want to deal with it, but I have been working on it. I have now come to the conclusion that that's not going to be finished in February. I still have half of another color. I'm still only halfway into the first color that I started recently, so I'm halfway into the gray. I still have to do, I believe, 19 rows of blue and 19 rows of orange, and that's just not going to happen. It's not the most lively knit. It's heavy, it's cumbersome. My cat likes to sit on it right where the needles are when I'm trying to knit on it. So it's just kind of it's on the back burner. It's not fun. It's not that I'm not enjoying it. It's just that it's not teaching me anything new. And that's kind of a big deal when I want to do new projects. Learning something new is really a good way for me to up my skills in a slow-paced, easy to accomplish kind of way. And my garter stitch blanket just makes me want to die a little bit. So it'll be done eventually. It won't be finished in Feb, that's for sure. Another thing that I was going to work on was my church mouse poncho, and I still haven't found the pattern for it. I have no idea where it is. It would be really cool if I could message them and be like, look, I don't know where I put the paper pattern. I definitely purchased it. Is it possible to get a PDF? Like, I'd love it if they could send it for me for free, but I doubt that would happen because people lie all the time. But I really wish I knew where that pattern was. I'm just kind of... I haven't seen it since we moved into this place, and I haven't touched it in a while. Like, it literally could be anywhere, and it'll probably be in a really stupid place. So either way, on their Ravelry page for the pattern, they did have their recommended gauge. I checked my gauge. It's too small. I'm frogging it, and we'll see what happens. You know, with it being almost the end of February, March and April will happen, and then hopefully we'll start getting summer. So maybe this will be a project that I'll start again, but I won't be working on it until it's more appropriate for me to wear it, if that makes sense. So maybe that'll be an end of summer project that I pick up again with the right size needles, and after doing a gauge swatch, I'll pick it up again and, you know, have it for the autumn season. Another thing that I wanted to finish was that lone sock that I made, my original Rose City roller. My needles are currently being used for my ribbed city roller, which I'll show later. So with the fact that I don't have the right needles to cast on the other soulmate for my sock, I probably won't be doing it. And I believe those were all of the things that I was kind of aiming to finish. So I'm bowing out of the Finish in Feb Cal with works in progress that were, you know, still works in progress prior to this month. However, I've got a couple things on the needles that I'm hoping I could enter with anyways because they'll be finished. The first one, and it's in the middle of a row and it's whatever, but I started my partner's Simple House slippers. So I'm using, my light is really harsh on that side, I'm using just Patton's Croix Classic Wool Worsted in the charcoal colorway, and I've got, what size are these bad boys? I'm using 5.5 millimeter DPNs with just little point protectors on the end so I can use them as straight needles because, like I said last time, I do not have straight needles that aren't like 12 inches long. So I started this. I hope to finish it. I'm not feeling it. I don't know. My other progress, my work in progress is still my Rib City roller sock. I honestly haven't done much since you saw it last. I did finish all of the stitches for the heel flap, so I'm on the point of turning this heel. And this is kind of like a rookie question, but I don't really know. When you're turning a heel, when you have a contrasting heel color, do you turn the heel with your contrast color or do you go back to your main color? I'm not quite sure when I'm supposed to switch. So if you can just like give me a little bit of advice or throw something in the comments, just should I turn the heel in the pink or should I go back to the Koigu main color? Because yeah, I don't know. But this isn't going very far. I'm not motivated right now. I'm really struggling. And the one thing that I'm motivated to work on is my Campside shawl. And the Campside shawl is one of those like iconic patterns that you will come across 1.5 million times. So hold on a second, my throat's really sore today. I'm straight up drinking coffee. I'm not gonna pretend it's tea, it's coffee. But the Campside pattern is one of those patterns that you will come across over and over and over and over again, and everyone has seemingly knit it. Everyone wears it. Everyone talks so fondly about it. But I have been nothing but frustrated with this pattern since I basically started. The pattern is a free pattern by Alicia Palmer. And I'm wondering if the fact that it's a free pattern maybe influences how people talk about it. I cast it on and then worked on it, and then I had my crafternoon last weekend, and then I basically ripped it all out completely and started again on the 13th. So far it's going to be really harsh because my light is right in front. But it's a really nice forest green. And I'm using Cascade 220 for this beast. But essentially it's supposed to be a massive shawl, and I can see that it's going to be quite big, and I think I might want it bigger than what the pattern says too, which I will talk about in a bit. But it's just essentially a triangle shawl, and it's just a series of eyelets. So you can see all the little eyelets there. It's supposed to be large. It's supposed to be one of those wrap yourself in it camping kind of shawls. And we need to get into some real talk, you guys. I am so disappointed in the pattern. This might be, you know, rookie mistake, kind of new knitter syndrome problems with the pattern. Because I haven't knit an assortment of garments before where I've had to look at patterns. Don't get me wrong, I actually prefer charts to written out patterns. It's easier for me to visualize. It's easier for me to follow. I don't get lost as often when I have to like scan through lines just to see where I was. So I love charts. I have really recently become very happy when things are charted. But it's about how the chart is written. I find it's really badly written. I feel like it's lazily written. I feel like for someone who puts their name on a pattern, even if it's free, if you're associated with something as large as Pom Pom magazine, or, you know, you are a designer who makes good, they're beautiful patterns, the ones that she makes, but I find that her patterns themselves are written out in a way that basically would guarantee someone to be confused and frustrated by it. There are parts on the pattern where, because it's essentially, you've got your center stitch and everything is a mirror image of each other on each side. So there are parts of the pattern where they're not going to match up because there are certain things on one side that there aren't on the other side. So you're kind of led to this place where you're feeling like something is wrong with you when you're following the, like I'm so frustrated with it. There is that feeling that I have to trust the pattern because I have a hard time visualizing what things will look like when they're done. I need to see something, to feel it, to touch it, for me to kind of process exactly what's going on. So I have a problem reading patterns anyways, and just kind of visualizing what I'm doing based on the pattern will lead to in a finished garment. So I will throw that out there right now, that this is kind of a problem that I've had since I was a kid. I have a really hard time visualizing how things will look. I need to do it. It doesn't matter if I measure, it just needs to be in front of me so that I can kind of see it and decide if I like it then. So I've been trusting the pattern, and then, you know, when you go back later and you're like, there should be an eyelet here, there's not an eyelet there, what's going on? It's really been annoying. And just little things like when you have a repeat, and usually patterns will have repeats, it's not crazy to have this, and they're, you know, in a box, kind of just to be like, this box gets repeated. You know, after a certain amount of rows, when that box disappears and you're just like, okay, well, am I supposed to do the repeats? And then everybody online is like, well, just extend those boxes upwards. Like, at what point do you just not decide to put that in your pattern? I guess that's kind of my main complaint. When they're easy to do, when you see people having trouble with them, why not just put it in your pattern? So I've been really frustrated about a lot of aspects of this shawl. I've been having a really hard time with it, and at this point, you know, it's not hard, but it's not correct. And I feel like I shouldn't have to dig through project notes. I shouldn't have to set up, you know, a search party on Ravelry to try and find other people who have been having problems. I just feel like if you're gonna knit this shawl, and it's gorgeous and I love it and I'm really excited to wear it, the process has been frustrating, but the knit itself is easy. It's just a series of repeats. They're really easy to memorize. It's easy just to sit. I can talk to people when I'm doing it, but just know that you're not crazy and certain things aren't right. There is errata for, I think, chart 4, row 23, where the one side is wrong, but I also feel like there's errata for a lot of other places where there shouldn't be. So just know that you're not the only one. If you're frustrated with this knit, you're not the only one. It does happen to other people, and I have a friend who isn't a new knitter who basically frogged it and was like, I can't handle the discrepancies. She's done. She's already recycled the pattern. She's not working on it anymore. And I think a big part of why I'm not like so frustrated with it is the color. Because really, when it's this dark, you really don't see a lot of the problems. So if I had like a light gray, or if I was working with a cream color or a lighter neutral or something like that, I would probably notice the places where there should be yarn overs where there aren't. And I would probably notice if something wasn't quite in line with each other. So I think the dark color basically saved it for me. And I'm just gonna keep trucking until I'm done, which I'm hoping will be sooner rather than later, because I'm still mad. I'm still mad that I completed chart 1 and 2 and then pulled it out, and in fact, it's still sitting here in like a pile. So like I've spent a lot of time on this pattern, and now I'm just working to finish it because at this point I just want to wear it. Other than that, I don't have any other works in progress. For stash in hand, well, works in progress, I'm trying to get more into the sewing aspect, and I tried sewing myself a little bento bag. And I'm learning how to sew. Straight seams are kind of one of those things that I'm battling to learn. But I tried to make a little bento bag out of these fat quarters, and it's actually too small for me to tie. So, well, it kind of isn't, but it's tiny. So I think next time I'll make a bigger one. I just kind of wanted to figure out the construction of it, how to put it together. So I would like to sew a bigger one for myself. I bought a couple tea towels out of the as is section from IKEA that I'm hoping to use, so I might sit and work a little bit more on sewing, since knitting just isn't really exciting for me right now. So yeah, worked in a bento bag. I do have a couple things for stash enhancement. So obviously, first off is the yarn that I bought for my Campside, and this is Cascade 220 in the Heathers. And it just says color 9448, so whatever that is, it's probably got a color, but it's listed online instead. So I had to buy 4 of these, and they're quite substantial. You get 200 meters or 220 yards per hank, so I bought 4 of them, and so far I've only used 1 full skein of yarn for my Campside. I'm gonna, that brings me to just this question. When it comes down to making the Campside bigger, there was a question on Ravelry, but nobody answered it. Like, if you're just repeating chart 7 and 8, can you kind of repeat those ones until it's as big as you want? Or should I have been, working to double this whole time, and now it'll be too late? So I know a couple of you have made the Campside shawl, and you've talked with me about, especially Elise, if you would have mentioned that you were working on this. I was working on it starting this past week, so it's been a fairly new thing for me to work on. But if I want to make it bigger, because I really do want a huge office shawl for when I go back to work, it's typically freezing cold in my office, so I think this would be an awesome thing to have there. So if I wanted to make it bigger, how would I go about doing that? Is it just repeating the last couple charts a little bit more than what they call for, or is there another way that I should have been doing it? So either way, I got this. Another one that I got it's just the Barocco Vintage, which is mostly acrylic yarn. But this color lately, I don't know, like the oxblood thing kind of was last year, and I'm super late when it comes to trends and stuff. I just kind of fall into them whenever I want. But I love this color. This color is gorgeous. And they had one from Sweet Georgia, but I can't spend $42 on a skein of yarn right now. It hurts me a little bit. So this is the $14 version, but I want to make a hat by Andrea Mowry called, oh no, now I can't remember what it's called. There were 2 that I have pinned, and they're actually sitting beside each other in Ravelry right now. The first one is called Glamping, Gone Glamping, and the second one, oh Lord, I can't remember what it's called. I'll put a picture in and I'll put the name in the thing. around here somewhere. But I would love to make a hat out of these, out of this guy with it, because I think it's a nice color for me. And now that I chopped off all my bangs, and there's been a lot of hair experimentation going on in the last couple of weeks, but I'd love to make a hat out of this. So I might even just, you know, buy the pattern. This is the thing I'm struggling with, because our dollar sucks and patterns are kind of expensive sometimes. Andrea Mowry has a ebook called the Staghorn Collection, something like that. And they're all kind of patterns that have some sort of cabling in them, like antler cabling. So I want to make one of her hats, but it's also part of this book. So I can either spend like $8.50 Canadian on one pattern, or I can spend $21.50 Canadian on her ebook and get a whole bunch of other patterns. So I'm still kind of weighing with what I want to do there. It kind of makes sense to just get the whole book, because I'm sure I'd love it. Her patterns are super adorable. She's adorable. I've recently started following her on Instagram, and if I could be that cute when I get pregnant, then I will be happy. Other than that, there's really not a whole lot that I'm working on. I am going to be collecting stuff for my partner for the You and Me swap, so I kind of feel like I won't be able to post a lot of stuff that I've been getting lately. I will tell you this, I'm really excited. There was a shop in Sherwood Park that I had been in touch with. It's called Kaleidoscope Works, I believe. And the owner, Allie, I had messaged her a couple months ago telling her that I loved her yarn and that I could come and pick up yarn instead of having it shipped up, and if she does that. Well, I noticed that she's part of the distributors discount people for the You and Me swap. So they've partnered with a couple shops to give discounts to people who want to purchase their yarn. So I was really excited because that's a twofer, so I get 15% off and I can go pick it up. So I've messaged her and asked her to hold a couple skeins for me. The wool piggery is strong right now. I'm really struggling with not buying a whole bunch of yarn, but gotta keep that thing toned down. Like I could bankrupt myself, no problem, on Fiverr. Yeah, I also ordered 2 pounds of citric acid off of Amazon yesterday, so I really want to get into some dyeing. I watched Hugh Loco, Nicole from Hugh Loco has wonderful tutorials on how to dye yarn, and it's really awesome when indie dyers fess up some of their secrets for the peasant folk like us. So I really do want to try and start getting into dyeing. My Cozy Memories blanket, which hasn't started yet because my yarn is very striking. I think that what I might do is order some blanks, some fingering weight blanks, and divide them up into mini skeins and just dye like a bunch of mini skeins. I think that would be really fun. I think it would be really cool to test different techniques, different colors on minis that will eventually go into my blanket. So that's kind of the new plan now. I am just going to start collecting the ingredients. So my citric acid is on the way. I don't know what kind of dye I want to use yet. There's the Jacquard acid dye. I've also heard of gay wool dyes, which is actually sold at the yarn shop in Stony Plain at Pam Wooley's. So, you know, I might just start collecting all of my dyeing stuff and make that like a once a month thing that I just do for myself for fun. So that's really something that I've kind of been thinking a lot about and wanting to do as I look around for last minute stuff. Other than that, that's been pretty much my week. I'm gonna finish this stupid shawl. And I'm sorry, I don't want to be super negative, but I just don't understand why you would leave such fixable things in your pattern when you can just throw in better directions. And you know, I've had a lot of people express to me that they also have had to explain this pattern to people, or it's just been frustrating for them, that kind of thing. So yeah. And I did buy the cardigan pattern for my sister-in-law, Carla, of the Relentless Knitting podcast for Christmas, and I hear from other people who have the pattern that it's just as kind of lazy and not written well. And I was kind of hoping that for a paid pattern at least, that would be something that would be fixed. So it just kind of seems like there's like these little errors in patterns and stuff, and it just bothers me as this type A perfectionist who can't do anything on my own without it being perfect. So different strokes, different folks, different comprehensions, whatever. I just kind of feel like I needed to be honest about the fact that I'm finding it frustrating, and the fact that everyone else seemingly in the knitting world just adored this pattern kind of doesn't make sense to me. So I'm sorry. I don't mean to be like negative or anything. It's just real talk. Real talk. Other than that, that's it. I don't really have anything else to talk about. I'm in a rut. So another thing I think would be cool is to share your favorite patterns. So I might start another thread on Ravelry just to be like, what are your patterns that you just brought you with so much joy to make? Because right now I don't feel loyal to any pattern in particular, but I'm also not feeling joy. This Campside pattern has been the opposite of joy for me. So I'm looking for patterns that just you loved, that you were so excited to make, that you just enjoyed every part of, because right now I'm not enjoying it. So maybe I just need a better pattern that everyone can agree they enjoyed. So if you have any suggestions for patterns that just are better and happier, let me know, because I can definitely use a fun, happy pattern right now. Other than that, I will be back next week. I'll try to be back next week and enjoy your day, I guess. It's gonna be a really nice day in Edmonton today, so I hope you have nice weather and you're enjoying your day. So that's pretty much it for me. Thanks again for watching. If you didn't catch it before, you can follow along at my blog at www.makethingsclub.com, or on Instagram I am as Loose Pages, and Ravelry I am romperlust. So I'll put all of the links so you can stalk me online below, and I hope you enjoy your week, and I will see you later. Bye.